Hi everyone. As you guys have seen in my recent videos, I took advantage of all the opportunities that COVID-19 presented itself. I was able to do a number of intermittent fasts. I fasted for 52 hours at one point, and then I did a couple 24-hour fasts, and then almost every day I do a 15 to 16-hour fast. I used this opportunity to get some exercise, and I kind of fixed a number of routines in my life. My big disappointment is that my sleeping schedule is quote unquote a mess. I only say it's a mess because it's only a mess in a social environment, right? If I can sleep in isolation, I sleep very well, and that's a conflict that I need to resolve at some point. But I enjoyed my sleep during the time. Let's put it that way, and I'll have to compromise when we go back to social life. But I enjoyed it, so I think that's good as well. One thing I noticed that a lot of people could have taken advantage of is when I go to the grocery store, people are hoarding a lot of things, right? But what I'm really disappointed about is a lot of people are hoarding cigarettes and alcohol. And makes you wonder, this is a good opportunity to be changing some of those habits. What was really funny was the first week of the shutdown, I went to the store and the entire beer aisle was a mess. It looked like there had been a war in there because not only were people hoarding beer, they also didn't care about making a mess and digging through the cases of beer to look for what they were getting. It was a mess, and in the midst of the mess, there was a huge mountain of Corona beer because nobody wanted it. People thought it would give you the coronavirus. It was really funny. It was really funny to see. What I really enjoyed was that because I had to wash my hands before I put anything into my mouth, it really forced me to think before I could just eat. You know, normally when I'm sitting in my office and I don't have to think about washing my hands, actually I really don't mind that much, even the COVID-19. The thing is that you hear on the news all the time to wash your hands, and especially if you have roommates, and it just looks awkward to not wash your hands and then just eat something, right? And so I go wash my hands, and sometimes in the middle of washing my hands, I don't really need to eat that badly, and I just set it aside, so that's all good. There's one other benefit that I realized that I wanted to mention, but I can't remember now. Getting a lot of exercise, and one of my big fears. See, a lot of people fear public speaking, right? When they have to speak in front of an audience. I actually don't fear that. I love it. That's why I go to the Computer Olympiad every year. That's why I used to love to go to. We have this conference with every topic. It's called Bar Camp. I don't think they hold it anymore. I'll have to check if they're holding one online this year because of COVID-19. That would be nice because then I won't have to travel so far. I love those things. What I really fear, I'll let you think about another form of speaking that I really fear. What I really fear is one-on-one speaking, when I have to talk to somebody on the phone, especially if I'm speaking and I'm worried who's going to interrupt me next, and I'm kind of in a rush, and sometimes I'll have to preface what I say with, please keep quiet until I finish, because this is a very complicated topic. Even then, people want to interrupt me, and when there's a fear of when somebody's going to interrupt, you speak really fast, right? And sometimes when you speak fast, you make a mistake. And I have a big fear of one-on-one speaking like that. When I'm at a public conference or even in a meeting with 5 or 6 people and I know somebody's not going to interrupt until I ask, do you have any questions? I don't fear that so much. Especially if it's at a conference about, let's say it's, last year I wrote a paper about the computer game Clobber. You really can't make a mistake in there. If you misspeak, sometimes it actually becomes a great idea that your next paper could be on, right? But when I'm buying a car or when I'm leasing an apartment, like last month when I moved into here, when I'm negotiating at a job interview, that's when I really fear speaking, because you can make a mistake there. If I misspeak at a Clobber conference, that becomes a new idea, right? If I misspeak at any of those other negotiations I talk about, I could really weaken my position there, right? But COVID-19 forced me to make a lot of those conversations, and that was very nice. I really got to play with the snakes, if you will, and get over some of those fears. Oh, but my big one is how much exercise I got, and how I started thinking before I eat. Oh, I used to eat way too freely and not really think about it. Unfortunately, food is very cheap where I live. I mean, relative to our living standards. When I was traveling in Macau last summer, food is pretty expensive there, and you couldn't eat very freely. It wasn't hand to mouth, hand to mouth, hand to. You really had to think before you eat, right? Unfortunately, in the United States, you don't, and that's a big problem for me. When I was traveling to some of the poorer countries, I had an even bigger problem with that, right? It was like, oh my God, I got to take advantage of everything here, but before I go home, right? Uh, and having to wash my hands, put a barrier in between. Maybe I'll just get in the, even if I don't care about germs usually, maybe I'll get in the habit of washing my hands just to stop myself from eating so freely. And then getting some decent sleep because my body operates at a different cycle than a lot of other people. I tend to, if I had it my way, if you boarded up all my windows and replaced my room with a UV light, for example, and I had it my way, I tend to sleep every 26 hours. Unfortunately, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I actually feel very well rested when I sleep like that. The only problem is when I have to come into contact with other people, that's all. And getting over some of my one-on-one speaking fears was very nice. And I had a good laugh about the Corona beer. It was very funny. It was very funny. It just goes to show how messed up we were at the beginning of the crisis. I wanted to see if I could find a non-alcoholic version of Corona because when this is all over, I want to celebrate by drinking like 100 of them. Thanks for watching.